and ni hao to everybody else. I'm sorry, that is the limit of my understanding of Chinese.
谢谢 Fisher， 大家好，你好。
Welcome to the conversation. You'll notice that we have Katie Peggs in the room with us. Katie is helping me today in the background.
欢迎大家来到今天晚上的讲座。大家注意到联席主持人是我的同事 Katie， 她今天会在后台帮助我。
Just wanted to let you know that she was here.
就是想让大家知道她也在这里。
So I'm going to talk about presence in a few moments, and today is an opportunity for you to practice presence for this next hour or so.
今天呢，我会跟大家讲什么是场域，同时呢，也提供机会给大家练习场域。
So my guess is that you have a lot of things going on in your mind at the moment, that there's a lot of things going on in the world and a lot of things going on in your life, which could be playing around in your mind. And what I'd like you to do is see whether you can just leave that thinking that's going on in your head alone for the next, for the time that you're on this webinar.
我想现在在大家的思绪里可能有各种各样的事情，包括我们周围世界发生了什么，包括我们生活里有什么事情。那现在呢，我想邀请大家把自己头脑里想的事情都抛开。
I'd like you to settle your mind, and as much as you possibly can, be quiet, and not worry too much about what else is going on.
我希望现在大家能够彻底的静下心来，给大家几分钟时间静下心来，不要管周围的世界发生了什么。
Mm-hmm. Most of what I'll talk about today will not be new for you. Most of the things that I talk about are, for most people, it's remembering what you know already, but have maybe not paid too much attention to it in the past.
今天我要讲的东西呢，并不是说对大家来说是陌生的东西，可能是大家已经熟知，但曾经没有花精力、花注意力在这上面注意的事情。
And what I'd like to point people to, and what I'm always doing, no matter who I work with, whether I'm working with coaches or mentors or leaders or managers, I'm always pointing people back to something that is inside them, to their own inner wisdom. And this is what I want you to listen to today.
就当我在平时跟教练、导师还有管理者大家在一起共事的时候，我经常做的一件事情就是希望大家能够关注自己内在，倾听自己内在的智慧。今天呢，我也希望大家能够聆听自己内心的声音。
What I want you to pay attention to is what makes sense for you. I don't need you to believe anything that I'm saying. I'm not here to tell you something. I'm not here to teach you something. I'm here to draw your attention back to something that you will already know.
那今天呢，我的目的呢，不是说让大家相信我所说的话，也不是想告诉大家什么，也不是说想教导大家什么，我是希望大家能够把注意力专注在你已经知道的事情身上，把注意力放在你的内在。
So if any of the words that I'm using don't make sense to you, rather than worrying about that or having any thinking about it, just look to your own inner wisdom to find words that make sense to you.
那如果大家听我说的话，哪个词可能大家觉得不是很合理，那大家可以不 不用担心这个问题，可以凭你的智慧觉得哪个词是适用的，大家可以这么做。
So what you'll notice about today is that I talk very slowly and we have a very relaxed and chilled out pace to the morning. I'm not going to bombard you with information.
大家有注意到我今天说话非常的慢，然后状态呢也比较放松，因为我今天的目的呢并不是说给大家灌输很多的信息。
I'm also going to give you the opportunity to have conversations with each other. And when you have those conversations, I'd like you to look to your own wisdom and share your own wisdom. And when you come back after the conversations, I'd like to hear from you, because you have as much to share and as much to teach others as I have. Like, we have no more wisdom. None of us has any more wisdom than anybody else.
因为今天呢，我会给大家时间进行相互的对话，然后通过这些对话呢，大家可以分享自己的智慧，然后回来呢，我也想听大家分享一下你们的讨论，你们的智慧，因为我们每个人的智慧都是无穷的。
And you will have questions. I'm sure you'll have questions. But what I'd like you to do when a question occurs to you is I want you to go back to yourself and see what answers occur to you from there.
然后呢是提问环节，我相信大家会想提问，然后在大家提问的时候，我希望大家能够回到自己身上，然后自己去看，就能否找到问题的答案。
And there will be a chance for you to ask me questions later as well.
对，后面。
And it looked like there might have been a problem with one of the breakout rooms. So I'm not quite sure what happened there, but it didn't look like everybody was in the breakout room. So apologies for that too.
我不知道刚刚大家讨论了什么，然后可能大家现在都回来了吧。
Okay. So I would love to hear some of the things that you talked about. And so what I'd like you to do, if you would be willing to share, is to put your hand up and then unmute yourself and ask the question, and Icy will translate it for me.
那现在呢，我想听听大家想说些什么。那个想分享的朋友呢，可以举手，然后可以提问，然后由翻译，然后我来再回答。
Tani，
我们 OK， 我们实际上对这个场域的理解是不是特别明白。那个温迪呢，在网络上查了2种解释，不知道他的这个跟老师的这个，希望老师对这个场域再做一个相对专业的那种名词的解释，这个方面这是第一个。第二个呢，我们讨论的时候按自己的理解，就是说这个要创造一种让对方感觉你在尊重他，你在聆听，让对方感觉到你很用心的一种氛围或者气场给到对方。这是个气场或氛围，是不是就是我们所说的场域？这是我们自己的理解。翻译不好意思啊，我英语不是特别好，不能英语表达。
We have 2 questions. The first one is, actually we cannot accurately understand what presence is, and we has looked for some information from the internet, and there are 2 explanations, and perhaps we want you to give some professional explanation of presence. The second one is about, from our understanding, presence is about creating a way for the others to feel that you are showing respect for him or her, or you are listening to him or her, and the other person feels the atmosphere you have created. And if this is about being present.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
This is one of the difficulties of presence, is that because it's so intangible, there's not a scientific or academic definition for it, but it's something that we all know and feel. And I loved what you said.
首先，它确实是很难说用准确的词来形容，因为场域它是无形的，它也不是说基于从科学角度来或者学术角度来形容它的，它是你知道或者能感觉到的。
I loved what you said about the atmosphere and a person can feel your presence.
我非常喜欢你刚才提到的那种创造的氛围，因为让对方能够感觉到。
And it's linked with attention.
它是跟注意力是紧密相关的。
So here's an example that I like to use. When you're talking to somebody on the phone, I get this with my husband sometimes. So I can be talking to him on the phone, and I know when he's listening, and I know when he's not. I know when he's distracted.
就我举个例子，比如说你在跟某人打电话，比如说我在跟我的丈夫打电话，就我知道，我能感觉到他什么时候在听，他什么时候没有在听，他什么时候分神了。
So we can feel when someone is present with us, and we can feel when they're not.
事实上，我们能够感觉到这个人他什么时候处在场域当中，什么时候又没有处在场域当中。
Now he might be able to tell me what I said.
他可能会告诉我就我说的事情。
Because he could hear my words at an intellectual level.
就从智力层面呢，他能够听到我说的话。
But what he wasn't giving me in that moment was the attention from here.
但是他并没有把注意力就从他放在他的内心深处。
Because what he was paying attention to was the noise that was going on in his mind.
他注意到的其实是他脑海里的那些声音，那些噪音。
So presence is something we feel.
场域呢，它是跟我们的感觉相连的。
It would be so much easier if there was an academic explanation for it.
如果有学术上的解释的话，这样解释其实就容易多了。
买多了 ，Thank you.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
So Chris has raised his hand.
Hi, morning, Maria.
Oh, Chris, sorry, her hand.
Yeah, I'd like to share what we talk about in our group. My partner, Jack, I think he impressed me most is that he thinks presence is just like a flower, blossom quietly and calmly. Wow, what a beautiful vision. I really like it and I would like to share here. And for me, presence in my understanding, it's two dimensions. One is from the relative tangible perspective, that is from time and from the space part. From time presents, I think it is not in the past, neither in the future. It is just here, now, in the presence. And that is the timeline. On the other hand, on the space perspective, I think presence is that, yes, it can only be felt. For example, when I coach my client to give her or him some support with coaching style. So I'm quite very inclusive and very supportive. I do not judge. I do not emerge my own ideas to influence him or her, just in the neutral part. That is a presence from the space perspective. And the tangible part is just for these 2 points. For the other more intangible perspective, I think presence is just like a spirit. It is just in the atmosphere you and your client creates. It come about and drawn us. And it comes and drawn. That is a presence. Yes, that's my share. And really, I also feel your presence. I like your methodology of the teaching. Thank you. I can translate.
Thank you, Chris. Okay. So I'm going to ask Icy to translate for the rest of the audience now, and I'll come back, and then I'll answer.
OK， 好的。我们的翻译小妹妹我就直接翻了哈，免得你那个可能还有一些不习惯哈。那我刚才说的就是关于这个临在哈，我们在这块叫场域，我一直听到的这个词我都是看作中文是临在哈。那么我的观点呢，就是有3个。第一个是我的伙伴 Jack 跟我们讨论的时候，他说到这个临在呢，它就像一朵美丽的花，安静的、平静的、开放的那样的一个状态。我觉得那种视觉感特别好，它是一个很好的描述了这个临在的一个说法哈。这个就是真的是 Jack 太棒了。然后我的看法呢，就是有一个相对来说具体一点的解释。那么这个包含2点，一点是从时间轴上来说呢，这个临在呢，它既不在过去也不在未来，它就在当下，每一个正在发生的当下。那么这是时间维度。还有呢，它从一个叫空间的维度来说，它呢是我举了一个例子，是我跟我的客户在一起的时候呢，我对我的客户是支持的，是不论断、不判断、不评判的。那更多的呢是包容他的，允许他的。那么这个时候呢，这个空间有了之后呢，就有了这种临在的氛围和场域。这个是从一个相对来说比较具体的角度。那么相对来说不那么实务的角度，就是说好像呢它是从上面来的，从另外一个维度来的那种灵感也好，灵也好。当我和客户在一起的时候，我有了那样的一个支持，我和客户还有这个场域营造出的那个氛围就有一种邀请，好像是从上面来的一个灵，它会让我们这个场域呢更加的有创造性。所以呢在这里的话呢，这个临在的价值就特别好了。这个是我和我们小组的伙伴一起在刚才的讨论中得到的一些东西，也分享给大家。谢谢。
Thank you for that, Chris. So I can't tell you how much I loved the metaphor of the flower in bloom. That is the most beautiful description of presence I've ever heard.
我非常非常喜欢刚才描述的，就把场域比作一朵开放的花，那种这是我见过最美丽的描述。谢谢。
And presence is like a flower. It sits in its own time and space. It has no judgment. It doesn't force its own ideas on anybody else, on anything else. It doesn't need to be anything other than it is.
场域呢，确实像一朵花，它坐在自己的时间跟空间里，没有评判，也不把自己的想法强加给别人。
And I loved what you said about time and space. It's like when we are sitting in the present moment without thinking about the past or the future, and the future can be as short a distance away as the next answer that you're going to give to the person you're working with.
我也非常喜欢你刚才的描述，关于场域是关于空间和时间的。当我们在和别人一起坐下来的时候，我们就不关心过去，也不关心未来。未来呢，可能是说在几分钟以后，你给对方的答案是什么。
So even when we're paying attention to the person, while we're thinking about what we're going to say next to them, we're not present. And one of the things that you probably notice is when you're fully present with a person, it helps them to think more. And what you'll notice is that you say less. So I hope you don't mind, Wendy and Michelle, what I noticed when you were talking in front of the whole group, how many pauses there were.
所以我要大家就注意的是呢，就是当如果你跟别人坐在一起的时候，你会在想接下来我要说什么。如果这个时候呢，你就不是在场域当中的。当你全身心的处在场域当中的时候呢，你会发现更多的时间是对方在思考，而这个时候呢，你说的话是变少了。然后就像刚才我在看 Michelle 跟 Wendy 对话的时候，就你们有没有注意到这中间是有多少次是停顿的？
Because what you'll notice is the silence is powerful.
你们会发现安静是非常有力量的。
What the silence does is it allows the person that we're working with to fall into their own wisdom. So when we're present, we're calm, we're quiet, we're not paying too much attention to the noise that's going on. We fall into this self that Lao Tzu refers to, the source of our wisdom. And it helps the person that we're working with to fall into their true self, fall into their wisdom.
然后在安静状态的时候呢，也是我们能够允许别人注意到自己内在的时候，因为在你处于场域当中的时候，你会平静下来，整个人都平静下来，你脑海里的噪音也会消失，然后这个你会完完全全的关注到自己的内在，能够聆听到自己内心的智慧。所以当我们跟他人在一起工作的时候呢，也是要帮助他人能够去找到自己内在智慧的源泉，是发现真实的自己。
So when you first meet a client, my guess is that you have a little bit of chat to start off with. You get quiet. You encourage your client to get quiet. And what you're doing is you're encouraging them to become present. You being present encourages them to be present.
当你第一次与客户见面的时候，我的猜想是，你们首先会进行简短的对话，然后呢，你会安静下来，鼓励你的客户进入场域中。那这个时候呢，你要处在场域中，然后你的客户呢，也要进入场域中。
And we don't stay present 100% of the time.
其实我们并没有说100%的时间里，我们一直都处在场域中。
I've been looking in this direction for a long time now, and I don't stay present 100% of the time.
就根据我自己的经历的话，我也没有说100%的时间里都处在场域中。
We go in and out of it, but we fall into presence. We don't make ourselves go into presence. We do that by not paying attention to the noise in our mind and looking to our hearts for answers.
我们呢，不是主动的进入到场域中，我们是在很自然的状态下，然后进入到这个场域中。在场域里的时候呢，这个时候呢，我们的脑海里呢是没有噪音的。
For me, what happens now is I trust in presence. I trust that if I have an intention to be present and I focus my attention on the person that I'm working with and I don't worry about the stuff that's going on in my head, then I know I'm more likely to be present more of the time.
就我个人而言呢，我是相信场域的力量的。如果我打算进入场域中呢，我会把自己的注意力完全放在对面这个人身上，我会把自己的大脑清空。
And what I do is I wait and I listen to my heart. So it's like, we have these eyes and we can see here, our eyes look inwards. And so instead of looking into my brain for something, I look to my heart for something.
然后呢，我会开始倾听自己内在的声音。就我们有时候看其实是这样看东西，然后有时候呢也会这样看我们自己头脑。但这个时候我要做的是呢，是听这里的声音。
And it feels like something speaks to me from here. And this is what I'm looking for when I'm working with people. I have a whole toolkit which sits up here. I have a toolkit of tools and techniques and theories and knowledge that I've accumulated over many, many years. And it sits like a library in my head.
那在我的脑海里呢，我的脑海里就像一个图书馆，它是我这些年积累下来的一些知识、一些工具、一些经验、一些技能。
When I come from here, when I come from my heart with a quiet mind, whatever tool or technique or model or theory or experience that I've had in my past occurs to me from that place, it has a different feeling about it to when I use it coming from up here.
现在呢，我会把注意力放在自己的内心深处，然后让自己的思绪呢都平静下来。这个时候我过往所用过的工具、技术以及理论模型等等，从自己内心深处开始运用的时候， 你会发现，跟你通过大脑来运用它们的时候，这个感觉是不同的。
Was there another question before I invite you to go into another breakout room?
接下来呢，我们还会再做分组讨论。在这之前，大家还有什么提问吗？
Okay. So I'm going to ask Katie to put you into breakout rooms again with Wendy and Michelle in the main room again. Thank you very much for that. And so what I want you to have a conversation about is what's been resonating for you. What have you been seeing and hearing that is new or fresh for you?
Maria, could you say it again?
What has resonated with you? And what have you seen that is new or fresh? Does that make sense?
Yes. 就接下来呢，我们就大家到进行小组讨论，然后讨论的问题呢就是我刚才讲过的内容有没有引起大家的共鸣？就是你发现这里你听到的有没有什么对你来说是比较新的，对你之前没有了解过的内容。
So it might be something that you knew already, but you might be seeing it slightly different.
可能有一些是大家已经知道的，但可能你会有一些不同的观点。
And in the conversation, pay attention to what your heart is telling you and not what your head is telling you.
在你对话过程当中呢，注意你的心里它告诉你的是什么，而不是注意你的大脑它告诉了你什么。
Okay. So we're going to give you, we'll give you 7 minutes in the breakout room.
我会给大家7分钟的时间。
Katie, can you put us into the breakout rooms, please?
我注意他刚才你想说吗？
说，你来，你先来，没问题。
我注意他刚才用了一个词是 "we fall into presence, not go into presence"， 觉得这个词很神奇，很有感觉。
如果你们两个想用英文写来，英文讲也可以，然后这样正好 Maria 可以听得到。
没问题。
好，重来。I especially like he used the verb "we fall into presence, not go into presence." But when I heard that, I think something special is happening. I have a special feeling for this word. I don't know why.
Okay. Well, I think the description say trust, presence. We've been trained many times on being present, and how much at least myself do I trust the presence. I never think of it and just do it. Yeah, this is a different, of course, a new, very fresh point, and trigger me think that
sometimes in class you are present, you are going to put away your intent, even your wisdom. Sometimes intent, we don't know them. We don't know we have intent with us when we really in a session.
Or the real intention of something.
No, that's not intentional. That's your intent. That's a hidden intent. We may not notice them before, but unfortunately, we brought them to coaching session or mentoring session. But when you really trust the presence, you are going to forget them. That's how I feel, but that's hard to describe.
Okay. So before I ask everybody to share what you were talking about in your little groups, I want to let you into a little secret. So I wrote this book 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago.
在我听，然后听大家分享一下你们刚才讨论之前呢，我想跟大家一起看一下我这本书。这本书呢，关于场域的是我7年前写的。
Okay, time flies. When I wrote this book, I didn't know that I knew anything about coaching presence.
在当时我写这本书的时候呢，我对场域其实是一无所知的。
I found out that I knew about presence because I wrote the book. When I wrote the book, sorry, I think.
当我知道，当我开始了解场域的时候呢，也是我写完这本书的时候。
So when I wrote the book, I was writing about my coaching. Like I reflected very deeply on what was happening in my coaching practice. And I was reflecting on invisibility, being invisible in coaching.
当我写这本书的时候呢，我做了很多关于我教练实践的思考。我会思考我在做教练过程当中发生了什么，而这个思考里面有一个很关键的词，就是关于无形的教练。
So part of that reflection, I reflected on when I was invisible and when I was visible. So when I was being more evident in the coaching, and when I was appeared to be less evident.
然后我的思考当中一部分内容呢，我会思考，就是我在做教练的时候，我什么时候是有形的，然后什么时候呢又是无形的，而什么时候呢又是非常就是明显的那种状态。
And it was through that reflection that I started to understand presence.
就是通过这种思考，然后我开始了解了什么是场域。
There was no books and no research about presence when I wrote that book.
当我写这本书的时候呢，那个时候没有相关的书籍，也没有场域相关的研究。
So what I'm saying to you is that everything that I know about presence came from within me. It came from that wisdom source that I talk about.
我要说的是，我对场域的一切了解呢，它都是源于我的内在，是源于我智慧的源泉。
And you have that same wisdom source.
你们也有一样的智慧的来源。
Everybody has it.
每个人都有。
So instead of looking outside for what presence is, I encourage you to look inside to what your wisdom says about presence. The reason I know about presence is because I've been paying attention to it.
关于场域呢，我希望大家是要从外在去了解场域，而是要从你的内心，从你的智慧出发，让你的智慧告诉你什么是场域。我知道场域呢，也是我真正把注意力集中在场域上的时候才开始知道它的。
So intellectually, you might feel like you don't know much about presence, but in your heart, you know everything that you need to know.
从智力层面，你可能不太了解、不太清楚场域是什么，但是从你内在智慧层面呢，你会知道你一切想要知道的东西。
So we only have a few minutes left. So I'd just like to hear what some of you have been seeing in the conversation that you had about what you're seeing about presence now.
那接下来还有几分钟呢，我就由大家来分享，就是你们刚才对话过程当中关于场域的分享，谈一谈你们是如何看待场域的。
Would anybody like to share?
Yeah, 谁愿意分享一下 ？We need to share. Oh, Chris, you want Chris or Jack? You want to share?
Doesn't matter if you don't.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, no question.
Michelle, if you don't mind, there were some things when you were talking in English, and there was a few things that really my ears pricked up at, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So something Michelle said was she doesn't think about presence, she just does it.
刚刚就是米歇尔跟温迪分享的时候呢，我也听了一点，就米歇尔说他想的，米歇尔你可以就是再分享一下这句话吗？刚才对你说的那个，
我已经都忘了刚才讲的是什么。
他可能
他是在讨论 topic 的时候是哪一段？是第一段还是第二段？
是第二段的对话。
第二段我说了什么？我不记得了 ，sorry 。I cannot remember what I said.
No, that's okay. I can remember. So
there.
Yeah, but that what Michelle said is absolutely true. We don't think about being present. We are present. And it happens when we stop thinking about it. And so everybody is doing it. You are all doing it. We do it when we're with our family. We do it when we're with our friends. We do it when we're with our work colleagues. We do it when we're with our clients.
米歇尔他刚才就是说的非常棒的一点，就是说我们并不会去想自己在场域中，我们其实就是自己不自觉的进入到那个场域的状态里。这种场域的发生呢，它可以是你在跟家人、跟朋友、跟同事在一起的时候是都可以发生的。
And when we're really present with our clients, especially, we can help them to think really deeply. And that's when the magic happens for the clients, when they see something that comes from within them that is helpful to them.
当你跟客户在一起的时候，然后当你真的处在这个场域当中的时候呢，你会能够帮助你的客户去深入的思考。那这个时候呢，有魔力就产生了，因为你的客户呢，他能够通过他内心的智慧，然后发现对于他有用的东西。
So my invitation to everybody who's listening to this is that in your coaching, when you're doing a reflection in your coaching and your mentoring, when you're reflecting on the process, I guess many of you will do that. Like I would always do a written reflection after a coaching session.
我想大家每个人在就做完导师或者教练指导过程以后呢，大家都会回顾去思考你做教练或导师的这个过程。那我自己也会把自己的思考的一些东西写下来。
So when you're doing your reflection, pay attention to your presence. Notice your presence, not while you're in the moment, but afterwards when you're reflecting. Jack, would you like to ask a question?
是的，我也想分享，就是一个小小的点，就是老师刚是给了个反馈就是说两个同学之间他们对话，好像老师反馈是你们有没有注意到你们之间那个有没有停顿，有没有这个 pause？ 哎，我觉得这个点特别好真特别好。就是有的时候我发现我说话就他节奏特别的快，中间是没有停顿老师这个点我发现老师今天说话都是慢慢的说完一句，然后一段停顿，这种停顿，然后就创造了这种 presence， 这是我一个非常大的一个触动然后在这个评论当中，我想到另外一个点就是如何去观察这个呼吸，就是你在评论的时候，你观察自己的呼吸，然后整个人就能够静下来，可能更有助于我们进入那种 presence 的这种状态当中这个就是我今天的分享，谢谢。麻烦帮我翻译一下吧
Yes. I want to share about the pause you talked about just now, the pause. I think that after you, Maria, you say something and then there is a pause. You say something, there is a pause. I think the pause is very important for us to fall into the presence. And then during that pause, I feel that when we feel our breath, it can also help us to fall into the presence.
Completely, Jack. Completely.
Thank you.
I think that sums it up.